All right, we are back with our last episode of this Chasing Timothy series, all about young leaders in the church. If you haven't been with us and haven't watched any episodes before now, I'm going to tell you stop right now and go back and watch, because for real, this one is going to be a capstone. This is going to be the finale of this, not only this book, but also this podcast. And ultimately, I think this is going to put a good stamp on what we as four people who work in the church would love to speak over the younger generation who ultimately will be leading the church in the next few years. You guys, middle schoolers, high schoolers, as you graduate, as you get older, you're going to step into some of these roles, and we're excited to see it. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we do that, I want to introduce these people, and we have one more story to hear. So don't think I forgot that, buddy.
We still don't. We don't even have to.
Partying. Prodigal son right over there. Just kidding. I actually don't know. I actually haven't heard this from you. So like, I'm excited to hear kind of how you got called into ministry and stuff like that. So, but
cool.
Before we get to him,
me too.
We're going to go over here. We're going to get to hear from Derek in a minute, but this is Sarah, our resident, not resident, but our resident as in like she's here, a resident worship leader. Resident worship leader. Like she leads worship here at the, anyway, moving on. Jaira.
As a resident.
Jaira over here. And are you wearing a House Fires shirt, or is that Maverick?
It's neither. It's my college ministry, but
never mind. Moving on. Derek. No, I'm just kidding. I thought it was because it looked like the House Fires album cover. Anyway, this is Ben. If you're wondering what House Fires is, it's a worship team. You should go check them out. They're great. Yep. But this is Ben. He is a resident drummer. See how I used it again, and you're not a resident drummer, but he also is our digital coordinator at the Crossing. So we're excited to have you back for this last episode. And Derek on his 6th and final episode he'll ever be on of our podcast. The party man himself, pastor of Midtown, wisdom dropper, youth slang slinger. My guy over here. I got nothing else to introduce you, but hey, we want to hear how you got called into ministry. Who was it that called you into ministry? What was signs for that first step of saying, you know what, I want to be working in church? So tell us about that. Tell us about you.
Yeah. So I wasn't raised in a Christian family, became a Christian later and really started to take it serious. In high school, I got invited to summer camp. And I literally went to meet girls. That's the only reason I went. A family who goes to our church paid for me to go. And I went there, and God slowly started to get a hold of my heart. And I left with a basic understanding of Jesus and like a girlfriend for the next 2 weeks. And then that ended.
That sums up all camp relationships.
That is camp relationships.
Love it.
So write that down.
That's the wisdom I was talking about you dropping earlier.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting for the slang slinging that's going to come in the next.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking
minutes,
about.
So
10%. High school ministry and having pastors and people that like you, Rob, like they were the Robs in my life, and the Frans and the Sarahs. It changed everything for me, and I was like, man, I respect these people so much. And as I got a little older, I was like, could I ever do something like this? And again, and it's the space of asking questions. Those people said, yeah, I think you can. And so we got some good stuff to say, but here's what for the rest of the time, but here's what I will say is I stepped in as an intern and just started figuring it out and thought I knew it all. And you know, by the way, when you're 18, if you go into ministry, you don't know anything, and that's okay. And I like multiple times tried to leave ministry. I mean, I changed my major in college a couple of times trying to get out of it. And even before I became the pastor at Midtown, so about 3 years ago, I left the ministry I was doing in Arizona, and I went and tried to work at a for-profit company. And I literally felt like I had sold my birthright. And so I have felt like what I would encourage people with is God does give the call to ministry. And if you have that call, you need to honor that call. But also, not everyone has to work in ministry either.
100%.
So not trying to, us pastors, we sermonize everything. But yeah, I just had great people pour into me. And I love being a pastor.
That's good. Well, so we're going to jump into 1 Timothy 6, and we're going to be talking about This one might be a little more pointed to those students who feel like they're called into ministry, that feel like maybe, hey, I do want to kind of work in a church one day. Or I think I could be up there leading worship. I think I could be leading a church in Midtown. I think I could be running a church's social media even. All of that is ministry. Right. And so this one might be a little more pointed to those of you who feel that way. But this last section of Timothy 6, Paul, it's called the final charge to Timothy. And he kind of just goes in and says, hey, Timothy, here's some things I want you to remember. As I close out this letter, here's some things I want you to really hear. Some things, and we're going to hopefully be able to do that for students at the end of this as well. But I want to read you this. This comes from verse 11 in 1 Timothy 6. It says, "But you, man of God, you woman of God, flee from all of this and pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, gentleness." And then he goes on, he says, "Fight the good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called and which you made your good confession in the presence of many witnesses." He's really looking at Timothy and he's going, "Hey, Timothy, I see something in you. I saw it when you were younger, when I pulled you into my ministry. I've seen you do it year after year after year. Stick with it. Stick not only with the job, like you're saying, as a young guy in ministry, you're like, I kind of wanted to leave. There were multiple spots where like it gets tough being in ministry, and you're like, I'm done, I'm out. Like I've had those times where I've walked off stage from teaching. I go, yeah, I'm never teaching again. That was rough. Or like you have a hard conversation with somebody, and you're like, well, yeah, I'm done with this. This is it. God, I can go do something else. But he's saying not only to Timothy, hey, stick with your ministry. He's saying, hey, Timothy, keep pursuing righteousness. Keep pursuing godliness. Keep pursuing faith, love, endurance, gentleness. He's saying do all of these things. Keep being who you are in Christ so that these other people can continue to learn from you. It's funny because you look at this last section, Paul's not even worried about Timothy's ministry. Paul's worried about Timothy. Paul is going back to this thing he said in chapter 1 almost of saying, I've seen these people shipwreck their life. And now he's at the end, he's going, Timothy, I don't want you to shipwreck yours. I want you to make sure you are living as a man of God, fleeing from all these bad things and focusing on what is right in my eyes and right in Jesus's eyes. And he's really pushing that on Timothy as this final charge. So I want to jump to you guys. I want to ask you guys, is there any almost a final charge to students? Is there any final just pieces of wisdom that these kids can walk away with? These things that they can say, wow, I remember when Ben said this on that podcast. I remember when Derek, when Sarah mentioned this, that really spoke to me. What would you guys say? Thinking of church leaders, thinking of all the people that might go into ministry that are listening to this right now, what would you say to them?
I guess I'll go. Like I said in the earlier episodes, get plugged in sooner, ask questions sooner, say yes sooner. I think, it'll never hurt you. Just being ready and responsive to God and what he's doing in your life, and have the posture of an open hand. Don't be tight gripped to the dream that you have or whatever it is, but just be open to what God has for you. So, yeah.
I love the open hand thing because it's this thought of like, yeah, I want to give everything to you, God, but God's like going, then let me take it.
Yeah.
Then let me have it. It's God, I want you to take my life, but only if it's me being an MLB player when I'm 20. What? Like yeah. God's like, I have such big plans for you if you would just release it and let me do with it what I want to do with it. But we can't let God have his hand in it when we have it in our hand and we're not giving it to him. He'll still do amazing things with you. It might just take a little longer. But when you open that hand to him, that's really good. I love that. I love that a lot. Who else? Sarah, Derek, any pieces of wisdom that you would just give as a charge to these students?
Okay. I would say, I think we all can be very conflicted by things we find in the Bible that get us very curious and frustrated. And, we're asking people or searching or coming to podcasts like this one to try to find answers because, we're just so frustrated with a lot of things. I think at the end of the day, what helps me with that is just remembering, fall in love with Jesus first. Before you want to question the Bible and you want to disagree and be frustrated, fall in love with Jesus first and then go back to all those things that frustrated you. And really just, just think about that, because I feel like even Jesus coming and dying on the cross for us, that was a sacrificial love. And that's what real love is. It's sacrifice. And so when you fall so deeply in love with Jesus, all of the things that don't make sense and that you can't get your mind to agree with, like they don't matter anymore. Like for me, I can say that like I don't struggle with the things in the Bible that frustrate me as much as I did when I was younger, because I've just fallen so deeply in love with Jesus that those things just fade away and you just don't care about them anymore because you love Jesus so much. You love who he is. You love who he makes you. And so that's my encouragement. Fall in love with Jesus first, and stop worrying so much about certain things the Bible says. Once you fall in love with Jesus, it all makes sense simply because of who he is. So yeah, that's my encouragement out of, if I could say anything from all of this.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I love it because it's almost this idea of you don't have to have all the answers to know Jesus.
Exactly.
That's what faith is.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and in all honesty, we're never going to have all the answers till we're with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. It's okay to be in that. So that's good. I love that. Derek, what would you give just like final piece of wisdom to these kids?
Yeah. So whether you're 11 or you're 18, as far as I can see it, 10 years from now, like you're going to be an adult. It's coming. You know, if you're 18, you're going to be 28. And how old are you right now, Rob?
I'm 30.
You're 30.
30 this year.
Okay.
30 as of like 2 months.
Yeah. So, you know, you're actually...
Why'd you say it like that? I said 30 and you were like, yeah.
Yeah. Like
I'm old?
You're
or
just like I don't know. I've just noticed you're moving around campus a little slower. I'm totally kidding.
Fought
He's
the
like a
good
sloth
fight.
now.
I'm totally...
You have fought the good fight.
You know, so when I think about students, like, man, the time is coming, and I don't know how you guys put it in Crossing students, but I know sometimes we'll say things like, you're the future or you're the present, you know, the church is now. I think it's both. You're both the future of the church and you're the church of right now. It's not either or. And so my encouragement is like, we need you. You know, next generation, like we need you and there's work to be done. And I do believe that there are students listening to this right now that are future world changers and city changers. And I always believe that there are future pastors, right? There might be someone who's the Midtown pastor that's listening to this right now, or the student pastor or whatever it may be. But that's going to come from you doing the hard work. It's going to come from you knowing and loving Jesus. It's going to come from all of the other things. It's not going to come from how talented you are. And so my encouragement is like, man, stay away from the negativity. As you get into, you know, your teens and your early 20s, there's going to be so many people with opinions about the church and everything that should be different and blah, 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 blah. And we're going to this place and, cool. Good for you. Ignore the negativity. Focus on Jesus. The church is God's plan, and it's this broken and beautiful thing. So stay the course, and like, we need you.
That's good. So I want to close asking you one final question because I was just looking at this while you were talking, and this comes from 1 Timothy 6:20. It says, Timothy, guard what you've been entrusted to your care. I want to take Timothy out of that, and I want to speak to those listening specifically. And it says, guard what has been entrusted to your care. We fully believe that the church, Big C Church, has partly been entrusted into our care. And we fully believe that that care is going to shift to the next generation, to you guys. We believe that maybe even the Crossing will be entrusted to your care in the future. We believe that God is going to use you and put you in these positions. So Derek, I want to ask you specifically, in the next 15, 20 years, where do you want to see these students take the church? What would a thriving church look like in 20 years if these kids took up this challenge, took up this mantle, stepped in just like Timothy and said, you know what, I'm going to do this? Where would you, being the Paul in this situation, where would you want to see it?
I'd want it to be super, super lit.
And that's it. Episode 6. Derek said lit.
We'll see you next year. When I project it out, we are in such a cool spot to get to be in the city of Las Vegas, and the world is going to continue to change. And, 10 years from now, I'll be 41, which is crazy.
Did you hear that? Derek's older than me. He made fun of me for being 30.
It won't even be a joke to bring me on the podcast anymore. You're just not going to bring me on. Like, it's just going to be done. And so, when I think about the next generation in our church, and I think about junior hires and high schoolers right now, there is going to be work to be done, and it's going to come from us I want to be careful here, but pushing back against the way of culture and like leaning in. There's things about like, man, there are people who are not serving anymore. I want you to serve. There are people who are stepping, away from ideas like I'm going to get married or I'm going to start. Like we need those things in the city and in the church, and we need the next generation. And I believe that the church is going to be positioned in a spot where it can be a light that's bigger than it's ever been before. But it's going to come from us being a family, right? And so all that to be said, the next 10 to 15 years, my encouragement is don't give up on this thing and step in any opportunity you get. And Rob, you've been great at saying it, but some of the things you're not going to love doing, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean back away from the whole thing. There's going to be times where you step in and the church lets you down. Welcome to the party. Start a timer. It's going to happen. But keep stepping in. I believe that God's going to use you and as such, use the crossing to continue to transform Las Vegas.
I love it. That's a great stamp on Chasing Timothy and this whole series, because ultimately our heart behind it is that you can jump into scripture and chase people like Timothy, chase being like them, chase modeling after them, chase mimicking your life after what they did. Just like Timothy mimicked Paul, Paul mimicked Christ. We're now looking at Timothy and going, wow, Timothy, you look like Christ. I want to look like Christ. How can I be more like Timothy? So that's the whole heart behind this, because ultimately as Christians, we want to be Christ-like, and we want to be Christ's hands and feet here in Las Vegas. So that is our prayer for you guys. That is our encouragement to you guys. We can't wait to see you back on whatever the next podcast is that we do. But for Chasing Timothy, for myself, Sarah, Ben, Derek, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for spending some time doing this. It's been kind of a grind to get through all of Timothy, and it's been hard sometimes, and that's okay.
Across 6 weeks of filming.
6 weeks of filming where we all wore the same outfit every single time.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Never
I mean,
watched it.
had we changed our outfits too often, they might have been chuggy. Did I use that right?
Bro.
Like
And
out
cut.
of place?
It's lit.
It's lit.
Chugga,
All right, go out there and be the gas for Jesus.
Be the gas.
Be the gas for Jesus, people. How many more phrases can we use? Derek, we're going to out Derek here as we close this message, and we'll watch the credits roll over our faces. But Derek, you were looking up slang terms to use.
Oh,
Like,
Bro,
teen-
no.
like Gen
What are you
Z
talking about,
terms.
Rob?
Dude, I'm dead.
As he glances up.
Sheesh.
I'm dead. That's so extra.
It's crazy. No
Keep 'em
cap.
coming.
Fit was great. Fire, etc.
What was the fit was great? What fit are you referring to?
Short for outfit. But I don't know. I've actually go off.
Go off.
Go off.
Go off, King.
Pop
Oh,
sis.
go
See,
off.
that's one.
Hey, that's Gucci.
He's so
Yeah.
serious. That's the
He
best
really
part.
is. He feels so
His tone
happy
is so
right now.
serious. Yeah.
IYK.
Do you know what that actually means without looking?
Oh, I
Yeah.
know what that means.
Looks at the tablet anyway.
Looks at the
know,
tablet.
you know.
Yeah.
I know what the idea is.
Because, like, Derek, if you really knew, you knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, sick. I know that one.
He's like getting better at this.
From our generation.
Yeah. Is slay
Slay. Yeah.
Yeah.
to be extremely
phasing out a
stylish or
little.
successful? That's
It is. Yeah.
slay.
It's the opposite of chuggy.
Oh.
You're slaying the
Right.
game.
Slay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
you're
sleep
slaying
on that new Ariana single.
Ariana.
That's the example.
It's Ari.
Now I don't know if this one's bad, so cut it here. But Yasify
Yeah.
No,
Yas.
that one's
I don't know about
not.
that one.
I don't know about that one, man.
to
Yeah.
apply
I know
several
Yas, but-
to apply several beauty
know
filters to a
Yas.
picture until the person is totally unrecognizable. Yasify.
Yeah, back in our day, we just called that catfishing. But
Yo,
no kidding.
that was a show.
That
yes,
was.
it was. Kaylee
Oh
loved
my
that show.
gosh.
Now we're just rambling. This is like what the end of a podcast.
Oh, there's
should
another
Yeah.
section.
be. All right. Looks like we are going to go through 2 Timothy so that Derek can use these.
So I can flex.
Okay.
With my-
Insert
with
cricket
my
sounds
fam.
here.
I'm
The
good.
crazy part is that he's using them in context.
I
Like,
know.
every
I'm
single
very
one of them
impressed. I'm
here.
actually very
Fast
impressed.
reading.
Yeah.
Wow. What was that?
It's great.
Yes.
Yes. Oh man, shook.
This is so good.
Do you have any more, or are we cutting it there?
No, I don't want it to get sus.
Bruh.
We love you all. Oh my God.
Goodbye, everyone.